Welcome to Big City, Small Town, the weekly podcast all about San Antonio and the people who make it go and grow. I'm your host, Bob Rivard. This week's guest is Chris Cullum, the chef owner of Cullum's Attaboy, the small but heavy-hitting Tobin Hill restaurant, founded by the James Beard finalist, a stone's throw from Cullum's Attagirl, the tiny fried chicken shack he's run for more than 8 years. Cullum was a 2024 finalist for Best Chef Texas from the James Beard Foundation. Cullum, however, is all about his team and the people he feeds, not industry awards that nonetheless can make a career. Chris Cullum, welcome to Big City, Small Town.
Well, thank you for having me, and what an honor it is to see you again. Last time I saw you, it was at the Alamo Street Eat Bar.
Wow, that brings back a memory. That was the first kind of collection of food trucks in urban San Antonio, and a favorite place for my wife, Monica, and I to walk to. We still miss it today.
Yeah, that was an amazing place and a very cool project. One of the first of the city. The Newmans did it.
That's right, Jody and
Steve Newman.
Steve Newman from The Friendly Spot.
The Friendly Spot and some other things too. They have other ventures, and for a lot of us, and that's where I met my best friend Peter from Where You At, and he had the food truck, and he has the cookhouse and also the owner of NOLA.
Well, you both have gone on to incredible things, but it's worth mentioning for people, particularly here at Geekdom, where we're in a startup community. It all began for you guys in a food truck in Southtown with no guarantee that it would work or that people would come or that you could make a buck and break even.
Yeah, Jody came and rescued me. I wanted to open up, do a burger concept out of an old Airstream, so I went and found one on Craigslist in Houston.
Back when you could still find an old Airstream on Craigslist.
And I found this, the right sized, and it was nice and beat up. I could afford it. And I was pulling it back from Houston. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know so I looked back in my rear view, and the windows are flapping and the door is open, and I'm just destroying the thing as I'm pulling it. So I have to pull over and figure this thing out and button it up. We made it to San Antonio. It was just me, actually. And I took it over to the south side, and we just cut it apart and made a little kitchen. The griddle was homemade. I couldn't afford a fryer, so I just had a stainless steel vat and a candy thermometer. And I think that thing caught fire about twice.
Wow. I'm going to say that was about 2012.
That sounds right.
And you were there for a couple of years.
I was there for about 5 or 6 years. And that opportunity, so I built the trailer, the Airstream, and I would take it around town over there where Cadillac Lofts is, that little park, and I would put coins into the meter, and I called myself #meterfeeder. And I would just post on Instagram. Instagram was brand new there then. And that was also linked up to Facebook. And I'd be like, hey, I'm here. And I had a generator in the back of the truck, and we just fired that thing up and sell to like 10 people. I did that for about 6 months before she rescued me.
Well, it's nostalgic now to look back at some of the challenges in this city, and younger people won't remember this, but San Antonio was not friendly initially to the notion of food trucks. They weren't friendly to the notion of scooters. They weren't friendly to the notion of rideshare or Airbnb or any of the ways that, society was changing and people were changing how they consumed, how they spent their money, how they moved around transporting. And so it was not easy owning a food truck 12 years ago in this city.
No, they would try to shut me down, and the city was like, well, you can't do this here. I'm like, well, I've paid my fee, and I'm registered. I'm a registered food truck. Like, what am I doing wrong? Well, we can't tell you what you're doing wrong, but we know that you can't do it. I'm like, well, when you can tell me what I'm doing wrong, I will absolutely stop. And actually, Jody came in and championed us and worked with the city to make it legal for us to operate.
Well, Jody and Steve Newman, again, from The Friendly Spot and some other businesses, have both been what I would call really activist advocates for progressive change in the city and for the city allowing new ideas and creative people to to try things out in business and not get in their way, but in fact, maybe become more supportive of those endeavors. So a tip of the hat to them.
Yeah, and they're still pretty involved with new things that are going on as well, some new changes.
Well, Chris, if you've become an increasingly recognized culinary artist in recent years, for people that are listeners that aren't familiar with San Antonio in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you grew up in a family devoted to the art of music and jazz in the form of your legendary father and the cornetist Jim Cullum. The Landing, his jazz club on the Riverwalk, was home for many years, I think as many as 20 years, to the Live from the Landing broadcast on National Public Radio. My wife worked for Texas Public Radio back then in the late 80s, early 90s, and we were frequent audience members, even though in the day it was one of the hardest tickets in town to get.
Yeah.
You worked there as a young kid in the club.
I worked there for 16 years. I grew up there. I used to skateboard on the Riverwalk. My father would be so upset and throw my skateboard in the river. The manager would help me fish it out, and I'd carry on, riding the escalators and hanging out in the Hyatt Hotel behind the scenes where the catering happens, and riding the elevators and just kind of causing trouble down there. And then eventually, honestly, some of the best years of my life, I started washing dishes commercially at age 11 and was all by hand. The Landing did not have a kitchen then. And I don't know. That's when I really fell in love with the business.
Well, we're here to talk about you and your career, not your father's, but I would say that I would credit him with helping put the Riverwalk on the national landscape more than any other individual in his day, because people would listen to that program once a week on National Public Radio and hear about this live jazz club, musicians flying in from all over the country to play, producers, musical anthropologists talking about the background of what they were playing and its roots. It was really a music education program as much as an entertainment program, and it was all about San Antonio's Riverwalk for everybody listening.
It was all about preservation of the art, the music, the jazz, and San Antonio's Riverwalk.
So did you not grow up wanting to grab a cornet or trumpet?
I did. I played.
Did you?
Yeah, I played cornet, obviously, and honestly, I found that I didn't want to travel 6 months out of the year the way he traveled. It didn't look glamorous. It was a lot of work, and I wanted to stay and focus on the restaurant side. I really fell in love with it.
So really from a very early age, you probably had, culinary instincts in your DNA and knew that was where you were going.
I did. I knew what I was going to do at the age of 15. And there's a kind of a cool story about that. Dad, it was a Saturday night. During the break, I got him right where the atrium of the Hyatt Hotel is. There's an elevator right there, and there's a little bench. And we went and sat on the bench. I was like, hey, Dad, I know what I want to do. I was like, I want to open up a hamburger stand. And I see, the people that are coming in the Landing for the main show at 8 o'clock, they pay a cover, they have nice scotch and cognacs and nice champagnes and all that. And what they're ordering, the people who are on the patio during the day drinking the margaritas, everybody seems to be equalized by the hamburger. Everyone gets the same satisfaction out of it. And I think it communicates to everybody equally. And I was like, I want to do this, and I want to do it really, really well. And he said, okay, cool. That sounds great. That sounds great, he would say.
That's wonderful to have a parental support at that age for a teenager's dream and vision.
Yeah. And so he says, all right, what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to write down 14 names. And I'm going to do the same. And we're going to meet here next week. So I write down my list. He writes down his list. It's next week. The break is happening. Saturday night, I'm like, all right, let's do this. I have this amazing list that I've worked very hard on. We sit down. He sees that I have a piece of paper in his hand. He says, hey, you need to throw your piece of paper away. I know you worked hard on it, but the name is Attaboy. And he gave me the name. I was like, all right, that sounds great.
And there it was.
And it eventually it materialized, and we're doing it. And I think it's very cool because not that we're trying to focus on the project is Attaboy became about old San Antonio, legacy jazz, and he is actually the logo now. And that happened during COVID, right? He passed right away.
And you mentioned that the soundtrack at the restaurant is the archival records that are now at Stanford University of 20 years of Live from the Landing. So you're living with the presence and spirit of your father every day at the restaurant.
Right. I grew up with an amazing San Antonio experience. I was lucky enough to go to some of the great restaurants, La Louisiane, Chez Hardy a few times, but La Louisiane quite often.
Well, I remember in 1989 when Monica and I moved here from New York, in our view, the only good cup of coffee was at a French restaurant at La Louisiane, Chez Hardy, Le Trois.
Le Trois. Yeah.
And they're all gone. But your menu at Attaboy, even for people that didn't live in San Antonio in those years, it's a reference to that time period and the culinary highlights of those restaurants, and things come and go on your menu that were inspired by what you enjoyed as a younger person at those restaurants with your family.
Yeah, one thing in particular is the tarama.
Talk about that.
The tarama was made by Miss Salazar at La Louisiane, and my dad was really good friends with the old chef, Max, and I couldn't stop talking about him. Everything was about Max, and eventually, I guess, it changed hands, and Miss Salazar was the only person that had the tarama, and La Louisiane closed, and so we got Miss Salazar to come to the Landing and teach us how to make tarama.
Why don't you explain to our listeners what that is if they've never had it?
So it's basically, we back on the Landing's menu, it was called like poor man's pate, and it's using carpro, cured carpro. Use French bread, scallion, lemon, carpro, and some other binders, and you basically turn it into a pate and spread it on these tiny little mini toast, and it's the best thing with champagne that you're ever going to have. But it's just cool having that connection. Even when I was a kid, I was like, this is special, and I need to like really bug her to learn this. And so I have my original notes of learning how to do the tarama. And
that's always on your menu.
That is always on my menu. My menu, honestly, does not change. Those things that are on there currently are going to be on there.
So it's not exactly a hamburger stand, Chris, in my view. And before Attaboy, there was Attagirl. So something along the way changed your plan. You opened that up almost 10 years ago, I think, 8 years ago, whatever. Why did you do that first, and what was it about fried chicken that...
Well, the food truck, the Airstream, was Attaboy.
Right.
And that was in Southtown. Then I had Tucker's on the east side.
Let's talk about that a little bit. A legendary East Side club in the traditionally African-American side of town, the Near East Side, kind of the borderline between Dignity Hill and Denver Heights. And yeah, that was the club that you went to.
Man, it was something special. Growing up, it's kind of weird to talk about, but growing up as a young man, I was attracted to that place. They had soul food. There was something magical. And what's weird about, for some reason, when I was young, I knew I was going to be part of this somehow. I was like, I am connected to this place, and I don't know why, but I love it, and I want to be part of it. And it worked out. I worked there underneath Eddie Romero and Greg Bickerstaff for 4 years. Then they sold it to me. And then I ran it for about 4 years.
That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. And my claim to fame, I'm very honored to be able to have done that. I left the dust where it was. I didn't change it. I brought in an old jukebox is what I did. That's about what I did to Tucker's. And my claim to fame is not burning it down by rolling stocks overnight. I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud of Dad would play there. We had amazing brunches. We had amazing dance parties. It was amazing. I don't know. That's a highlight of my career, being able to be part of that Tucker's legacy.
Tucker's has had more than a few lifetimes.
Sure.
And I'm not sure who the owner is now, and haven't been there. I don't get out as much as I used to. Is it still a club with either live music or DJ'd music that's operating, or is it even open?
I am not sure. I know it's had a few owners since I've been involved with it, and I think it's in limbo right now.
I do too. That's a shame because it's a landmark in San Antonio, and we've never had a large African American population in town. It's always hovered around 7 or 8%. And you've had to go out and find the wonderful aspects of Black culture that are a little bit more accessible in other major U.S. cities. But it's something that the city should cherish and nurture more. And it would be great to see Tucker's have another comeback in the years ahead of us.
I agree.
Well, you grew up in the River Road neighborhood, Chris, and I want to talk about that a little bit because, like your father before you, you identify as a dedicated preservationist and somebody that values the history and legacies of the city. It's evident in your menus, as we talked about. And there's probably no other place like River Road for people that aren't familiar with it. It was a neighborhood that was literally invented by the construction of 281 that just tore through residential neighborhoods in the near north side of San Antonio, like it or not. And you got this cut-off neighborhood over next to Breckenridge Park and Breckenridge Golf Course that it's become such a legendary place that realtors don't really operate there.
Mm-hmm.
Houses trade by word of mouth to people who have been waiting for years for a house to come along. I don't know if you still live there or what it was like growing up there, your other family members that have lived there in houses.
That area, Monte Vista, that area, that is my corner of the earth, and I still live there. My sister lives, right there. My cousin lives there. My aunt had a house right there. We are all there. We love it. It's a magical place. I grew up also right where, where Barbaro is?
Sure.
Right there. Barbaro was our washateria. I grew up right across the street in Monte Vista, right there. I used to go to little St. Anthony's Elementary, walk to school right there. Like, shout out St. Anthony's. So I still live in the neighborhood. I'm very much, I'm very much in love with the River Road and also, that section of San Antonio. This is my part of Earth.
Well, it's very much alive and rich with not just residential life, but lots of street life and places like Barbaro, Chad Carey's pizza joint there is it on Main?
It is on McCullough.
McCullough.
Yeah,
okay.
And that salad is one of the best in the city.
There you go.
Yeah.
I agree. Frise.
Yeah, it's so good.
Talk about being a finalist for the James Beard Award, because I know that it's not something that's gone to your head, and you don't own a fancy 60-seat restaurant that costs a couple $1 million to open and a couple $1 million to operate. One of the wonderful things about the Culinary Awards is the way they search out the little guys. Alex at
Carnitas
Lonjas down in Lone Star, and Mixley, which recently just received its first star in Southtown, which is amazing, and you.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, those are make or break awards for people. And did being a finalist and all the media attention to that bring in a lot of new customers for you, or somehow fortify your business, particularly after the pandemic when so many restaurants have struggled?
Yeah, so we opened during the pandemic Attaboy, but the construction of the area really made it difficult. And I just want to say to all the press members, if you're listening out there, thank you so much for literally keeping us alive. Texas Monthly, San Antonio Magazine, The Current, you guys.
You guys would be the San Antonio Report.
Right.
I'm not a you guy anymore, but
okay.
I know that's what you're meaning.
Okay. I very grateful, and it did help. Texas Highways has helped. It was interesting because, it was 2 years of us kind of staring at each other, having $30 days and $70 days, and Saturday and Sunday would be okay. But I think that it's trained San Antonio. The lasting effects of that construction is trained San Antonio that you can't get down there. And it's just not true. There's plenty of free parking. You can park on the street for free, walk a few steps, and then you're in an amazing little area of town with awesome options. Not just us. There's Sings out there. There's other places. Not everything. You're like, for instance, we do love the Pearl, but you're going to have to pay for parking now, and then you're going to have to walk quite a bit. So I'm trying to like bring awareness to, hey, we're now a city that has cars and we're growing. So sometimes we're going to have to walk a little bit. We're going to have to park, and not block people's driveways and participate in something magical. Like, go out of your comfort zone and let's do it.
Well, walking is good for us, first of all. But second of all, I think the kind of attention that the media and restaurant owners, business owners gave to the debacle of redoing St. Mary's Strip has hopefully made the city of San Antonio, our municipal government, less tone deaf to what these public works projects are doing to small business people and to their customer base. And hopefully we become better at getting those projects done quicker and also being more transparent about them and better communicators, because I don't think anybody gives the city anything other than a failing grade for how they handled St. Mary's over the years.
I think that the businesses need to band together. It was pretty impressive to watch Chad Carey spearhead getting the construction back on track, because, there were just months of just stagnation. And he went in there and really helped get it done along with some other people. That was impressive. But going back to your original question about the accolades and the beard and that stuff, honestly, it is cool when they find the small guys, because we are actually trying to cook, and we're not, me personally, I am not in this business to make money, because I think it's a horrible way to actually try to make money. I'm in it because I love the work. I love my team. It is the warmth, the little fire that we build with those teams that the customer gets to enjoy. And I've had that my entire life growing up, and I recognize how important that is. It's about, it's just a room with a kitchen in it. Well, that's all it is without us. So if I don't have a healthy relationship with all my team members, the project is valueless.
Do you have a team that's stable, Chris? We had Grant Pinkerton from Pinkerton's Barbecue here at Legacy Park downtown on the podcast a few months ago, and he's just running and gunning. Things couldn't be going better for him. He has a waiting list of people that want to work for him.
Wow.
He pays people well above the local rate and believes that there's a value in that to his bottom line long-term in reducing turnover and getting the quality of service. But we had Chef Elizabeth Johnson from Farm Table on as well. And she talked quite a bit about the challenges post-pandemic of keeping staff, many people leaving the business because it didn't pay more or there weren't healthcare benefits. It's just been very difficult. And a lot of restaurants have actually closed since the pandemic in San Antonio, many of them with recognizable names that were regarded as, culinary successes, but obviously as businesses, they didn't make it. I wonder in that universe where you fit and how you see the landscape as a business person 2 years after the pandemic.
Well, I've been in this business about 34 years now, and nothing has changed. It's the same. It's always difficult to find good people. I think that goes for any industry. I think it's hard to have a great team. And when you have a great team, you do your best to take care of them. If that's your actual genuine interest, if that's what you want to do, it's doable. But it's still going to be, for me, it's still difficult to find people. We don't have people, begging us to work, or there's no list for us to work. The way I like to operate it, I want to have the healthiest possible environment that I can. And a lot of it is kicking out toxicity. I keep it clean. I do my best. And if there's an issue and I'm not able to assist, then we quickly move on and I get to work. So usually if you see me working, it's because I'm feeling a spot. Something's not quite right. There's actually not enough room for me currently at Attaboy to do anything. So when I'm the guy, like the other night, I've extended my hours at Attagirl again because things are getting better.
How are you open? Give me your weekly schedule at both Attaboy and Attagirl.
Okay, so Attaboy currently, we were open at dinner, and we have hopes eventually opening at dinner again. But I feel like I have one bullet left in the gun to give it a good shot, and I want to do it right and execute properly. I did it during construction, and it stopped it. So I was serving like 2 to 3 people a night with some amazing cooks in there. It's like, I can't do this. So currently, Attaboy is a breakfast and lunch place. It goes from 8 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon.
How many days of the week?
That's Wednesday through Sunday. And I shut it down Monday and Tuesday to give everybody a rest. Wash your clothes, do what you need to do, live your life. Like everyone else seems to get a 2-day break. So let's do that for the restaurants. And that goes for Attagirl too. Now, Attagirl goes from 11 in the Wednesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. On Friday and Saturday, we stay open even later and go all the way till 2 because there's so much activity down on the St. Mary's Strip.
And you serve alcohol there, right?
I do. I got into, I was mainly a beer joint. I started with just fried chicken and a really nice, tasty beer list, right when that was a really amazing thing happening about, 10 years ago? And since then, I've expanded the menu. We have the burger that everyone will remember that we did in honor of James Albert Cullum. We call it the Jack. That's the COVID one where everyone, like the cars wrapped around the block, like all the way down to even Magnolia. So I also have added a liquor component, and I have cocktails now, which is very cool because I'm from San Antonio, and I must sell a margarita.
Well, if Attagirl is doing so well in the evening that you're staying open till 2:00 on weekends, what would stop you from, just enjoying the same success with Attaboy?
I need to save money. I don't have partners. I do it all alone.
Do you want a partner?
No.
Because we might have one listening.
Partners, I do not want a partner.
Anybody here in the studio have some spare change that we can...
Not interested. It never, for me, does not. I did it once, and it was a very, as we say, great life lesson. Some of the hardest things that we ever go through, they become, people become saints in your life, and they also become amazing life lessons. And we're very grateful for those experiences, truly. So no, I would like to do dinner, but right now I also know that people love consistency, and that is more important to give them consistency than something that I don't know if we're ready for. Well,
speaking of that craft brew list at Attagirl, do you have any theories of why so many breweries are going out of business?
I think they honestly just oversaturated the market. I mean, realistically, I think it was just too much. And now it's at its breaking point, but it's also cyclical. It will come back. It's not gone anywhere. It's made a very lasting impression, and it's still very strong. But I think that community that's very interested and focused on that, there aren't as many people into it as that we would like.
I wonder if inflation has played a role too, and if people have decided instead of paying X amount of dollars for a craft brew at a restaurant, that they can stay home and have their beer in front of the television less expensively, and just whether a whole segment, a whole demographic of former restaurant goers now don't have the disposable income to do that, and that's taken its toll on craft brews.
Well, ingredients became more expensive, labor became more expensive, and these delicious, yummy beers cost money to make, and that's just, and there's a lot of them. And so, like, during when we're really having the issue with inflation, you saw, pints of beer going for $14, and you're like, I can't sell this. People don't want this. Even I don't care how delicious it is. So we found other ways and other options. Still get to support a lot of local places. Still do business with a lot of the amazing brewers in town, and it's still doable. They're figuring it out. People who want to stay in the business, they'll stay. We have a
UNESCO World Heritage culinary destination in our city, and some of the chef owners have suggested that for the city to live up to that standard, it should be coming up with some sort of program to subsidize or otherwise help small business restaurants that are struggling. I think Chef Elizabeth Johnson would favor a program like that. Graham Pinkerton's very much a private sector capitalist and would oppose that kind of government support and involvement. Where do you come down on that in terms of whether the city of San Antonio, city council, the mayor should take an interest in the fact that because we're a World Heritage culinary city, that there should be some government support for that sector of our economy?
That sounds great. I think that I don't know much about it, to be honest, but I feel like there could be more awareness of the award, like us being a UNESCO city should be celebrated more and it should be more known. I don't think many people know about it, honestly, but everyone seems to know that Michelin's come to town. So how do we do that? Supporting small businesses, it's not even in my mind as an option because we're scrappy and we're just going to make it happen no matter what, I don't even consider it. But if something like that were to happen, I think that would be fantastic. But who gets the award? Who is awarded the funds? And that becomes a whole thing. And I don't know. I don't know about that.
Well, Chris, we're running short on time, but I can't let you go without asking everybody that's in the culinary business, the restaurant business, to help us with tipping anxiety and what your theories or philosophies are about that. It used to be that 10% was kind of a poor tip, 15% was an average tip, 20% was a good tip. I noticed my neighborhood taco joint, when they flipped that iPad over for you to sign, the tips start at 30%.
Ooh.
And unless you want to customize the tip, which requires a little bit of keyboard work. And I think a lot of restaurateurs think that loyal customers can help stabilize their business by tipping more than 20%. And so you often see on a receipt what 20% is, what 22% is, and what 25% is. And I think people have tipping anxiety over that, and it adds substantially to the cost of going out. But on the other hand, people want to support the local businesses and the good people that are in the service industry.
Sure. But honestly, your Tex-Mex restaurant in town is, how much is your bill? Like $10?
$8.
So where you're 30%, I mean, do the math. It's not, this is what I think. I think you tip what you can, honestly, and 10%'s fine. It's if that's what you got.
Oh, everybody's going to,
or you don't tip.
Everybody's going to kill you for saying that, Chris.
Well, we don't have that as an option. Maybe it's 15, 20, and 22% is what we do. But I think you tip what you can. I think I would love to see more people cooking at home. San Antonio's blown up in the restaurant scene, and all of them aren't. A lot of them aren't trying to, they're in it for the money. And I think a lot of them are in strip malls. And I think that a restaurant should be a magical experience. I think you should learn how to cook. If you want to eat beans and rice so you can tip, 20% and that works for you, I think, it's great. I do a lot of home cooking, and I save my money up, and I want to go to those places that are actually cooking, not just because it's convenient.
Well, there you go. Well, Chris Cullum, 2024 James Beard finalist for Best Chef in Texas and owner of Cullum's Attaboy and Cullum's Attagirl. Thanks so much for coming on to Big City, Small Town.
Thank you for having me. What an honor.